I'm Motty, that's Scotty, and for the second week running, we've got a special guest on this podcast. We're doing all right, aren't we, with guests?
Special Mancunian guest.
Special Mancunian guest from Wythenshawe, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
God's country. From This Is England and also The Walk-In, amongst many other things. Andrew Ellis. Andrew, thanks for coming on the channel.
No, thanks for having me, guys. It's nice in here, gotta say. I freaked out by that when I walked. Not the tree. No.
Yeah.
No,
nature froze him.
I'm about to say that's new. Sorry, I'm still getting used to it. We're going to put in this afternoon. I'm like, we pushed the boat out because we've got a guest. Let's get some...
Christmas tree kind of style going on.
Cost us 12 quid, that. Apologies. I picked that photo because it's from This Is England. That's one of my favourite scenes. That's the sherbet
I've just done a line of sherbet there, haven't I?
We will get into it in a minute. Scotty, so you arranged this. How did you get hold of Andrew?
Well, obviously, we're a big fan of his work, but he was drinking in his local pub, wasn't you?
Yeah. Just literally just popped in after a game of footy and bumped into you,
Yeah, and the BBC, I tried to get him to do this thing where I go around to local pubs and just interview the landlords.
Right.
It was a short lasting sort of... We're not paying for you to go around to pubs and
Did
drink.
this not get past the pilot stage?
And Andrew was on like the second of 3.
Oh, really?
But yeah, the landlord said, oh yeah, you'll know him over there, and then I got him and interviewed Andrew and stuff like that. And
it was weird for me because I walked in and
Did you finish football?
I'd literally just finished playing football, and then I walked in, and then because he's always doing stuff, Simon, the landlord of the Fairbank, and he literally was like, "Oh, I want you to do an interview," and I was like, "No, what are you about?" And at first I'm like, "Look, I'm not. If it's some like gammon channel or something like that, I'm not." And he went, "No, it's BBC." And he said it wasn't. He was like, "Oh, yeah, all right, sound." And then sat down and realised like you were our kid. I was like, "Oh, Jesus." Yeah, man, it was,
No, I was buzzing to meet you, man. Obviously, a big fan of yours for a long time. Before we get onto your acting career, so what was Wythenshawe like? How old do you know? What was it like growing up?
I'm 32. Yeah, it was okay. It was quite rough, I think, when I was younger. Like, it's weird, isn't it? Because, like, when you live somewhere, you don't really realise it until you grow up and move on and people are like, that was dark. But, yeah, no, it was... there was a lot of, like... area. If you were from one area, you couldn't go to another area and stuff like that. When I was like an early teenager, and then that sort of started to kind of die off. But I've always loved Wythenshawe, mate. It's just a really nice, like there's a good sense of community there. It gets a bad name sometimes, but it's a massive place, but it's got a really kind of small town feeling, I think, which I like. I've moved away in the past, and I've always sort of come and obviously work away a lot, and then like coming home's always really nice because I know I can pop in like my local and see at any point of the day I'll know someone in there. Do you know what I mean? I think when we were there, it was like old Tony, who's like this, I think he's in his late 70s, bless him, lovely old fella, but you can just go in, have a chat, put the world to rights for a little bit. It's a nice place. I love it. I love it, yeah.
No, that's what I thought when I walked to that pub. It very much reminded me when me and you first started drinking, and that sort of community we could walk in, and if you were a stranger in there, it was like the OK Corral and the doors are swinging.
Yeah.
He's not from round here.
I remember, going to Wythenshawe when I used to be a reporter for Q103 and he's got Wythenshawe. And it was one of those, like, at first people would be a bit like, who are you, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But I think Q103, because it was like a local station, and
Yeah.
once you start chatting to people, everyone would be all right, and they drop the guard a little bit, and they realise you're not, like, from a gammon station, or you're not trying to paint a horrible picture of the town. And I do like that feeling because, Wythenshawe, obviously, it seems to be a bit on the map more recently, with like Marcus Rashford, what he's doing, obviously representing. There's yourself, there's...
Noel Gallagher's playing a gig there in the summer.
That's wild, that, isn't it?
Yeah. That came out of absolutely nowhere, didn't it?
What did you make it out when you heard that?
Yeah, I was kind of like, that's cool. I loved Oasis. I've not listened to loads of High Flying Birds, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, if did he say it was like he's doing it because it's a city stronghold though? Apparently,
well, I'm not having that.
Apparently, I read somewhere that he said I'm playing Wythenshawe because it's a city stronghold.
Oh,
Are you a red or a blue?
I'm a red, so it's definitely not a city stronghold.
I'm surprised you should have played Stockport.
Well, I thought
I never thought Wythenshawe was a city stronghold.
No, there was definitely more. I mean, I left school 15 years ago or something like that now, but there was definitely more Reds than Blues in my school, 100%. In my year, anyway. Do you know what I mean?
He's like that, though, Noel Gallagher, and he thinks everywhere's a city stronghold. Do you know what I mean? It's probably a little bit...
That's just how out of touch he is, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. To be fair, you've done well getting him to Manchester, let alone to Wythenshawe. Andrew, when did you first start getting into acting then? Because was that something that was a bit rare for growing up in Wythenshawe for someone to get into acting, or was you a few of your mates doing it?
No, I mean, I didn't know of anyone doing it. Like, I remember just sort of doing, in like primary school, did a little bit of like a drama thing, and I was always the loud kid. I was always the one who, you know, I probably got ADHD. Like, one of them kids where it was like, he needs some kind of direction. So in primary school, that kind of started happening. I did like a little bit of drama, but nothing massive. And then when I got in high school, I fancied a girl who did drama, so I went along and did drama purely because, you know, and then I'd sort of just carried on doing the drama. Never got the girl, gladly never got that girl because, and now I'm happily married. But like, just fell in love with the acting with it, and yeah, just carried on doing it through school. And then luckily enough, I got my first role, which was This Is England. I got cast in that while I was like 14, 15, sort of. They did a few, they filmed some in my school. It was an ITV drama called Marrying Again with Stephen Tompkinson. They used my school as as one of the filming locations, and they said to all like the kids, like, if you want to come in for a couple of days over the 6 weeks holidays, like you can get paid. I think it was like 20 quid a day to be an extra or a supporting artist. So like me and a few mates did that and stuff. You know, it was great. Like, say we got like 20 quid a day, you know, did 3 days, thought we were like balling. I think I went out and bought a phone on contract and my mum went mental.
That'd have been going right in the off licence if it was me.
Yeah, to be fair, you forward planning there, bro, getting a phone.
Well, I was just sat down and got a phone, and then my mum was like, well, you do realise now that's a monthly cost, don't you? And I was like, what? And then from that happening in the school, I think a couple of casting directors then were kind of like, oh, okay, there's a few kids here who were willing to give up the 6 weeks holidays and stuff. And then, yeah, I got a couple of auditions, and one of them happened to be This Is England. So, yeah, it kind of went from there, really. But
what was that like for you? Did you sort of get the gravity of what was going on as a young kid working with Shane Meadows, sort of, you know, as Gadget in This Is England, a big part as well?
No, I mean, I don't know. It was, do you know what I mean? Because I was a kid.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know if it would have been any other way, really. I mean, I didn't know who Shane was because I was, like, say I was 14. You know, I'd not seen any of his films. I did, obviously, after I got the part. First thing I did was go watching like Room for Romeo Brass, which is one of my favourite films now. Dead Man's Shoes, which is an absolute masterpiece.
Your favourite film?
It is what.
Dead Man's Shoes.
I'm not
It's
saying
so
that. I'm
good.
always raving about that. I must watch it about 100 times.
Yeah, I love watching it with someone else for the first time.
Yeah.
I think that's just one of the, like, them kind of, obviously, don't want to spoil anything,
Yeah.
but them kind of films where you know, so like, you know, like Sixth Sense or something, where you kind of like, I know what's going on here and I'm watching out for all that and you don't know nothing. And as soon as that end bit comes, you're going to be like, whoa. But yeah, so working with Shane and that, I mean, obviously, I was just made up to be, because at that point, at 14, 15, like, I wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
Like I said, I always did all the kind of school plays and stuff like that. And I really wanted to be an actor. I didn't know how to be, like, even then, like, drama school and stuff, I just didn't have a clue about any of that. There was one lad who I knew, who was in sort of like my older cousin's year, say about 6 years above me or something. He played the title role in, do you remember Jimmy Grimble?
Yeah.
So Lewis McKenzie. He was like literally the only other person who I knew from Wythenshawe that had kind of done it. So yeah, it was a weird one, really. It was, yeah.
We talk about that a bit, though, don't we, considering the careers we've gone into. There's very little sort of role models to follow in the footsteps. I mean, because I think both of us sort of followed the wrong footsteps for a while.
So we weren't doing our career at 14, 15. Trust me on that one, Andrew.
It was a career of sorts.
Yeah, we didn't go, like, started sort of going to uni until, what was in our late 20s?
27, I think.
27, yeah, both a similar age, went to uni and started sort of looking at a career path. What was it like being in that sort of role and with all those other young actors as well?
Because it's such a family, isn't it, really? This is England. When you're watching a sort of ensemble cast, is that right to call it that?
And then you have the film and then the series as well.
And I know you're gang of mates, aren't you, now, as well? You're very close.
I think that was instilled in us straight away, pretty much. Like, I remember I got the role in, like, the summer holidays between, like, year 10 and 11. And that whole kind of summer holidays then, so I got it like early on. Every couple of weeks, I had to go down to Nottingham because I was cast quite early on. I think it was me and I think a few of the girls who were cast early on. And I remember that they were trying to get a Woody, so there was a couple of Woodies, and then they were trying to get a Sean, so there was a couple of Seans. And so like we had to go down and do like little workshops with them, and because Shane works primarily through improvisation, to me it was just the best way to spend my summer. Like just getting to dick about with loads of random people, and meeting these new friends. And then obviously once they kind of got that core kind of gang, I think it was sort of 2 or 3 weeks before we actually started filming, we just had like this block where we'd workshop ideas. So I went down then and started living in Nottingham. And like I say, it was like 2 weeks before any cameras were rolling. And we just had like, just 2 weeks in this little basement thing in Nottingham where we were workshopping stuff. We were just getting to know each other. We even went to Alton Towers for the day. And I think that instilled that friendship within us. Yeah. Because you don't get that on any other set, really. Like every set you go on as an actor, like I always say this, you meet people and you instantly become best mates. You just do. Actors just sort of live in each other's like pockets for however long they're shooting for. And then you go away and you might speak in a WhatsApp group for a little bit and you might see them every now and again, but that's it really. But with This Is England, like, I think because we were so young, and then we've had this, coming back doing it for a few years, every couple of years and stuff. It's we are a bit more like a family. We've been there for each other. Tomo Turgu sadly lost his mum after filming the film, and we all got together and went to her funeral. And I think that's where Shane kind of seen that and was like, we've got to do a little bit more now. We can't just leave it at the film. These guys, really do. And we do. We genuinely do sort of love each other and love to see each other, doing well. With, Vicky obviously smashing it with the Dementia Choir and everything on telly that she does. And Stephen obviously doing amazing. Evan Gilgan doing amazing with Brassic and things like that. Like it was such a catalyst,
wasn't it? When you watch after sort of break off, it's like a bit like the class of '92, but
no, it is like you say
of acting. Do you know what I mean?
I like that. Yeah. Forget the BAFTAs and that. That's a wow.
We don't bring the tree out for anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean?
Class of '92. This.
What was that like as well for you, Andrew, when that came out? Because it was such a big film as well. Because it was everywhere, wasn't it? For when it came out, everyone was talking about it. I remember watching it when it came out. I was like, "Oh, see this."
Yeah.
Go and check this film out. And I was like, like Shane Meadows. Anyway, I wanted to see it. And it was a mint film. Did that sort of change your life in a way because of the success of it, or was you still able to go around Wythenshawe and just be hanging around with your mates and buy more mobile phones?
I'll bet your mates are like, buy me a mobile now.
Yeah, come on.
No, I mean, did it change my life massively with the film coming out? Probably not, because it was a weird one. We finished filming it 2005, and I don't think it came out till like 2007. So there was a massive gap there of me just kind of telling my mates that I've been in this film, and honestly, I'm not lying. I'm not lying. And then by the time it came out, obviously I'd left school, I was in college, and I think I'd done one more thing. I think in between that time, I'd got a little part on like Heartbeat. But I was just, when it came out properly, I was working in ASDA. Yeah. Like, because it's one of them, like, obviously everyone kind of imagines that, you do a film and you're like, oh, you've made it and stuff like that. And people genuinely did. But obviously, like you're saying, I think you had it a bit earlier at 14. I got to like 17 and I was like, oh, alcohol's nice, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? You do. And I was like, down the pub, and then you needed money for that. And like at the time, luckily you got EMA or whatever it was, 30 quid a week to go to college and stuff. So
remember that.
EMA.
Yeah, because when I was
maintenance stuff.
It was it education monetary allowance or
something like that?
Yeah, I can't remember. But basically, because I went to Lucian College down south, and I wasn't on an EMA, but everyone in my class except me was. And you had to go and you get like, if you turned up, you get this 30 quid a week.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
And loads of them would just come in, disappear for it, come back together, then kick off if you didn't get the money. But yeah, I think they got rid of it. And I don't think it's a thing now.
No,
it's like, soon got rid of that.
Exactly.
But it used to be a thing, very popular.
When you were talking there about Shane's big into improvisation, that's a lot of pressure on you, because what I loved about This Is England, and I think Deadman Dead Man Walking,
Dead Man's Shoes.
Dead Man's Shoes. It's great, but it's very dark. Whereas This Is England struck a balance between the sort of comedy of real life as well as a sort of strong subject matter. But you're really funny in it. So how was that to sort of improvise?
I think, all right. I think comedy, because I teach a little bit of improvisation as well, and that's where people naturally go with it. It's harder to kind of improvise and be serious, because especially when you're a kid, you know yourself. If you remember like drama lessons or anything when you're a kid, like you do a little bit of improv and then someone always brought in like a machine gun or something just random, just made it a bit daft. So yeah, I mean, again, for me, it was my first kind of way into it. So I just thought that was normal. I thought that's what acting was then. And then when I went on and did like I say, I think another little job that I did around that same time was like Heartbeat, which was so like regimented, proper. Like I remember I played this kid in a motorbike gang, and I can't remember the line, but like I got off and said like, I don't know, they instead of they'll or something like that, and then the script supervisor was literally there like, you know, and little things like it was completely the opposite. Like you kind of get spoiled with Shane because it's improv. It lets you find the characters as well. Like I've got an original script up in my loft of This Is England. I think at the time it was called Bulldog as well.
Really?
Like I think that was like the working title of it. And it's completely different. Like I think it ends with a massive brawl on the beach between like Stephen Graham's Combo's kind of skinheads and Andrew Shim's Milk is kind of like I think how it kind of went in 90 with like his family coming in and this big brawl, and then I think Sean Tomo's character ended up stabbing Combo in the sea. Yeah. It's a completely different film. Like I've read it a few years back, and it's a completely different film, and that's because like Shane will start with an idea, but then he'll let little things that happened in them workshops, you know, change the characters and stuff like that. Like and that went right through to the series. Like that picture there, obviously I don't know what I'm dressed as, but that was because when I went to the audition, I was a massive hip hop fan, and I remember going to my audition for the film and had a pair of like Machiavelli jeans with like a massive picture of Tupac on, a Chicago Bulls like jersey on. And
we had the same wardrobe.
Well, that's it. So you are probably a similar age to my cousin who I grew up with. I kind of like took all my kind of inspirations off him. And I remember going to the audition sort of like dressed like that. And then years later, when we came to do 86, Shane was like, so I've got a few ideas for Gadget. Harvey's going down this kind of new romantic thing. But then I was thinking, because you really love hip hop, and I went, please let me incorporate some like 1980s, like really early hip hop stuff. And then, so it kind of evolved the character that way. And then Steve Graham got involved because he was a break dancer when he was younger. Not a lot of people know that. And then he was like, you've got to have this red headband, you've got to have this, you've got to have that. Put me onto a load of like really early hip hop and stuff like that. So it just let the character kind of evolve. And then he does the same with the program, the film. Do you know what I mean? Like if you
the character dictate the storyline, would you say?
Yeah. And us as an actor, kind of, you know, we can come in and try something in a workshop, and it'll completely change it. Same with 90. I think the original script for 90, Gadget died. Yeah. He got involved with heroin with Kelly, God. And then ended up dying. So, and I remember loving that. I remember ringing Shane and being like, "Thank you. I love the fact that we've killed him off that way, and it was beautiful." And then when we were filming it, you know, things changed. It just didn't sit right and stuff like that. And then I remember after it, there was talks of another one. I'm like, thank you for not killing me. If we do a 2000, I'm just glad I'm there.
Can I segue into hip hop?
Yeah, please do. You know what I mean? I'm not going to stop you.
Right, who's your top three?
Top three, Big A. I've got to say Eminem. And then, I don't know, it wouldn't... back then, obviously, it would have been sort of like Tupac, but... I don't know. I know these are so, like...
The change...
standard answers as well. Probably Nas, I'd say.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Can't knock that. What's yours? Freak, because you're a bit. I'm not really a hip hop connoisseur. You think yours are bog standard? Mine are just like.
I think in terms of lyrical ability, Eminem would be top for me. Yeah. I think Nas probably number 2, and then Mos Def is.
Okay, nice,
decent. Yeah, very good. I'll go. Tupac,
Will Smith,
Biggie, Will Smith. Yeah, the guy out of Ed Sheeran. No, more joking. I used to like. Doggy Style and Snoop Dogg was one of my favourite albums.
Yeah,
I love that album.
You know, when you go back now though and you listen to hip hop albums, you can't really say it out loud. No. Like because like you couldn't. Doggy Style would not get made today. I don't think.
No, not a chance.
The content on it and stuff.
No, even like little segments in between the songs.
Yeah.
A bit like,
oh Jesus,
wow.
Yeah.
You're not having that.
Have you got the Doggy Style album?
I don't have it. Like,
have you seen it?
I know what you mean.
So
the pictures, like the cartoon on the front. Yeah.
So I've told you this story.
No, I don't think so.
I was like 13. And we were passing Doggy Style tapes around school at the time, and my birthday was coming up, and my auntie said, "What do you want for your birthday?" And obviously, hip hop was still underground. I said, I want this like Snoop Dogg album, Doggy Style, and she didn't fucking even think anything of the title. Right. And this probably says more about her sex life. So we're sat in some sort of Frankie and Benny's type joint. Me, my mum, my dad, my sisters, and stuff. And my auntie Jed gives us this CD. Open it up, and mum's gone like that. What the fuck's this? G's and bitches. And I was made to take it back and get Now 94 or whatever.
Oh, no way.
It was terrible. Entrance is the only track on it.
Mate, Now 94. Class. Better say that. Put better say that on.
G's and bitches and hoes.
Class. What was it like working? I've got to ask you this because my missus is his biggest fan, Stephen Graham. Because you've worked with him a few times, haven't you?
Yeah, luckily enough. Yeah, I think we're 3 times now.
Yeah.
Mate. Honestly, like being an actor, any day on set's like going to a theme park. But when you're working with Stephen, it's like going to freaking Disney World. It's just what you learn in his company. Not even like in terms of acting, just in terms of he's just a beautiful human being. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just brilliant. He's a lovely bloke as well, considering the amount of work he's done, the amount of brilliant work he's done as well. He's not it's not just one of them actors who's got a massive IMDb list. A lot of the stuff on it's like beautiful.
Home runs every time.
Oh yeah, and especially
right.
like the last sort of 5-6 years, like everything's literally. But yeah, no, he's amazing. He's I remember on This Is England because I got to work with him quite a lot on the film, in terms of like because Gadget kind of goes with his sort of gang for a bit, doesn't he, and stuff, and just learning little things from him. I remember because obviously we were all just mad kids, trying to probably at that time like outdo each other with the improv and all that, and I just remember watching him between takes, and he'd just sit and he'd just kind of have a minute with himself and just focus basically, and I didn't get that. I probably didn't get it until probably about 5 or 6 years ago either. Like I just used to see it and think, all right, okay. And I get it now. It's when you're on a set, it's madness. You've got people, crew walking all over. You've got people asking you what you want for your dinner. You've got all this going on, and you're trying to like stay in. And obviously with his character, he had to kind of battle some demons, man. He had to be in a certain headspace, and it's just about taking that time and putting yourself in the moment. Do you know what I mean? And that was one thing I learned off him. And then obviously going back to work with him on the walk-in last year, like again, just seeing him now as Stephen Gray, because obviously back then he was an actor, he was a great actor, but from then to then he's just become a household name. He's just become he's a Hollywood star, isn't he? Like it's crazy. But just seeing him so humble and just learning from him, we had some downtime together where I'd normally be like, oh, should we go and mess about? And he'd be like, no, let's get our lines done. And literally it was like teacher. He'd be like, right, come on, lad, we're going to sit in the hotel room, we'll get our lines done, and then we'll go out. And it's like, right, okay, there was no kind of messing about. He's very kind of regimented like that. And it just respect it, do you know what I mean? He's a hard worker, and it obviously has paid off for him massively.
You mentioned the walk-in, and congratulations on that, Andrew.
Cheers, man.
You were waxing about that one.
Oh, mate, I was like, me and my missus, right, we never watch anything together. We like, honestly.
Explain that.
Yeah, she'll watch Corrie downstairs, I'll be upstairs watching something, and then we'll swap. We started watching that, and we were both engrossed. Loved it.
Oh, nice one.
And you working, it was amazing. And it was Robbie Mullen, isn't it? It's a true story. Anyone who doesn't know, this is a guy, sort of let you explain. You can explain it better. This is a sort of reformed sort of guy, or guy that goes through a bit
so
of
it was based on a true story of this lad Robbie Mullen, who joined a far right. It's just a lonely bloke, you know. Didn't have much prospects in life and stuff, and he ended up joining this far right organisation called National Action. I think he joined just on the cusp of when like they became the first far right organisation to be banned in the UK since World War II. So like since like obviously I don't know what that would have probably been like Nazis, I'm guessing. Yeah. So they became a terrorist organisation, and then basically one of them had plotted to kill an MP and a police officer, and it wasn't long. You know, there was a lot kind of going on at that time with Brexit and all that kind of all that stuff, and this kid had planned to go and kill his local MP, and Robbie contacted Stephen Graham's character Matthew Collins, and basically worked with him. They called it a walk-in because it was sort of like undercover within the group, kind of bringing them out from the inside out sort of thing, and then he got labelled obviously as a terrorist when he left. The police kind of labelled him as a terrorist. He couldn't work, couldn't do anything, so Hope Not Hate sort of looked after him for a bit until it could all go to court and kind of be and get them brought to justice. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, it for me it was an interesting character because he wasn't a nice lad, you know. He joined a far right group. Do you know what I mean? He was definitely lost. He was definitely, you know, but again, being from Wythenshawe, like we touched on earlier on, it's predominantly a white working class town. I've seen people like him. I don't agree with them. I don't, you know, anything like that. But I can see where someone can ignite that blame within them people who don't have anything, who don't have any prospects and stuff, and then someone can go, oh well, it's not, you know, they don't point it at the real, you know, they don't point it at the billionaires taking, you know, money. They point at the easy targets, and that's how they get these people on, and that's what happened to Robbie. So that interested me as like a character because, you know, I was just like, wow, you know, because we were talking earlier on about very left-wing politics.
Exactly.
And, you know, so it was, you know, it was just amazing. And then after I'd taped for it and went and sort of met and that, I found out Stephen was involved, which was madness. And then, it kind of went from there, really. And it was an absolute pleasure to be on. And again, just working with Steve day in, day out. And, you know, for me, in terms of my involvement in a project, it was the biggest job I've done yet. I know obviously This Is England was huge and stuff,
but in terms of your role,
in terms of my role in it, like I was on set pretty much, you know. I think we had a 12-week shoot. I think I had like 4 days off in that 12 weeks, so that was like hard work, which was great. That's exactly what.
Does that put more pressure on you then when you realise that this is going to be your biggest role to date?
Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with that though? What's your sort of coping?
I was just excited, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, we started filming it sort of like July, August 2021. So I'd been locked in my house for well over a year. So I was trying to get out.
Bring it on.
I was literally like, now.
Far right terrorist, I'm there.
No, obviously there's pressure. Do you know what I mean? I remember sitting down with the director and chatting to him and sort of, you know, saying like this it is scary. Do you know what I mean? It's the lead role basically opposite Steve. You know, the two sort of leads. It was crazy to even think that. But you know, you take it on because you kind of, that's what you want to be doing. That's what I want to be doing. Do you know what I mean? I want to be doing more of that. I want to be getting them roles, and it just so happened like this role was, you know, so kind of. I mean, I don't know, like, you know, it was just written with, like, say, because I don't understand where he's coming from, but I could. Do you know what I mean?
No, because I could get it. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like you could see like how he was exploited a little bit. By
he's fully exploited.
Like, he's
yeah.
disillusioned. He's he's blaming, like you say, blaming the wrong people. And what sort of got what I enjoyed about it, even though at times it was infuriating, it's not an easy transition. He doesn't suddenly go. No. Oh, actually, all these views are wrong. I'm gonna go, join Hope Not Hate. He still has like homophobic and racist views. And Stephen Graham's character, is it Matthew? Sorry.
Yeah.
He's trying to sort of, and his missus as well, convince him like, you know what, these attitudes are wrong. And it was a great performance. It really was, and it was like it's one of those where you watch it, you're getting angry. You're watching it, you're getting like fearful. Really fearful. Do you know what I mean? And like, and I just thought, and you know. The sort of the fact it's real as well, and it was around the time of Joe Cox, wasn't it? When you know,
that's what, because they took credit for Joe Cox or something, or they posted something around the time and stuff.
So you know, obviously Joe Cox got murdered by a far right terrorist, basically. So there was a lot of sort of, you know, there was a real danger that this was going to happen again. And you know, when you're watching it, and in the end, like when he's in court, and you're proper rooting for him, I was like. Go on, son. Do you know what I mean? Did you meet him at all? Did you have conversations with him? Or?
So in the court scenes, ITV were amazing with security, with stuff. Me and Stephen had literally had someone sort of following us around on all that at all times on set and things, because they had to be, because like you say, you know, these people are still active.
Yeah.
And this one day, we had someone from Hope Not Hate who was on. Again, I was there for 12 weeks. I didn't even notice that this guy was from Hope Not Hate, but he kind of came over towards the end, and we was chatting, and he said, "Oh, the real Robbie might come to set tomorrow if that's okay with you." So I was like, "Yeah, like that's fine." And then it was weird then when I met him, because I was like, again, it's straight. You know, the guy saved 2 people's lives. You know. And I'm playing him, and I'm going to go and say hello, but it was just a weird one, because he is, you know, reformed. But like you say, you know, at the end, I think there's a line where someone says, "Are you still a racist?" And he says like, and that was all real transcript. He says, "What is it?" He says, "Are you still a racist?" And he says, "Yes, but less so."
Yeah,
and it's like, does he still feel like that now? Like, do you know what I mean? So it was a bit strange. But the weirdest thing was. So we were filming in a courthouse, and I went up, said hello, and all that stuff, and then I'm sat doing my scene, and say I'm looking at you now, and you're a barrister or whoever it is, the lawyer, whatever it is, I'm doing it with you now, and I shit you not, that you're Robbie, the real Robbie, and it was worse because because of This Is England and stuff, like I'm just pretty terrible with scripts anyway. I can learn them, but I always kind of put my own little bit in there, a little bit of improv-y stuff. But in the courts stuff and the police interviews and stuff, it was all transcript, so they really wanted to kind of make sure that it was exactly as it was. So it was just the weirdest feeling looking at this guy, actor, playing the judge or whatever he was, and saying the words and watching him there. And it honestly... it threw me because I couldn't remember the script anyway, but it was just crazy because I was like, he was saying these words in this exact same get-up 4 years ago or however, because it wasn't long ago. It wasn't like, you know, your typical kind of biopic or something where it was like, you know, in the 30s or whatever. It was literally 4 years ago that he was in court, so... Yeah, that was a weird meeting.
I thought it was tense watching it.
It was tense,
on the couch. Never mind you actually going through it, acting in it with the real Robbie Mullen watching you.
And he's the lead role, got the whole cast and everybody else watching.
You know what I mean?
Big shoulders on you there, man.
It was terrifying.
I could barely cope, just sat home like, this is too much. What's going to happen?
But it added the pressure. You know, when I'm sweating in that box, that's not. They're not coming over spraying glycerin on me. That's real sweat.
What did you make of the reaction as well? Because you must have seen the amount of praise and accolades it's been getting around it. So
yeah, it's been amazing. It's been absolutely amazing. You know, some of the reviews have just been crazy. Like, and you know, it's a very important story that needs telling because people don't realise that stuff goes on, even though of all those horrific things in the news. Do you know what I mean? I think it's more than anything, it's important to kind of. I think Stephen Graham's character says it like, you know, it's something like 7 out of, I can't remember the true facts, but something like 7 out of 10 people in prison in this country right now for terrorist offences are white, and people just wouldn't understand that. Do you know what I mean? Like it's one of the things. I remember that in one of the scenes with Robbie where they're saying like, "Are you a terrorist?" And I was saying to the director like, he's not saying no because he doesn't think, he's saying no because his picture of a terrorist is somewhat so far removed. And I think that's important to you know, more than anything with the reviews and stuff like that, like people going, wow, this, I've seen a lot of that online, people going, I'm ashamed that this is happening. Like, it's crazy that this still happens. And it really, really is. If it can open people's eyes.
Yeah,
to that,
well, it's like,
that's the best
what
thing
was it,
for me.
the migration centre that got, when the guy killed himself in the summer? But he was classed as being mentally ill, even though there was pictures of him with Nigel Farage.
It's a terrorist.
2 weeks later.
Yeah.
This is it. And it's like, you know, when the Joe Cox murder happened and then, like, certain newspapers had it on, like, page 16 when he got convicted, and you thought if that was, you know, a certain type of terrorist, it'd be front page.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It was crazy. But what I loved about that as well is, you know, you see this Robbie guy playing with his niece, I think. Talking about United with one of the Asian lads at work, and yet he's still got all these views, and you're like, it's such a mad sort of, you know.
It's crazy, isn't it? The worst people on Facebook always have profile pictures with dogs.
Yeah.
How can they put horrible stuff on Facebook and then have a profile picture with the dog? How can you care so much about a living thing and then post vile, horrible stuff? It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
It is madness.
Talking about United, then, what are you making of the new under Ten Hag and the promise of the future under new ownership?
I am not the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to football, I've got to admit.
You're in good company.
When I came in and saw the Stephen Palace, I was like,
if you look at all the comments under most of his videos,
I'm sort of made a career out of it, so don't worry about it.
I'm happy. I'm excited. It's strange, like, because it's all on pause at the moment, right? And there's been that whole stuff with Ronaldo going and stuff like that, and how well Rashford's doing at the World Cup. Like, that's exciting, you know. I hope he, you know, being a Wythenshawe lad, I hope he comes home and carries that into United and, you know, smashes it out for us as well. But yeah, that's.
What's your thoughts on the World Cup being held in Qatar? Then I know you're quite outspoken politically.
Yeah, no pressure.
We were saying this earlier. Yeah, I think it is crazy, isn't it? You know, to be held in a country that has, you know, such archaic laws and the, you know, the workers' rights and stuff like that. But it's a strange one, innit? I was saying earlier, like, I've not watched much of the World Cup, and I'm not football's biggest fan anyway. But I think I'd be more into football if it was kind of like World Cup, Euros all the time, because it's so small and condensed. Yeah. I can just get it. My brain can work out. When it's like the Premier League and all that, and my head just goes because there's too many teams, there's too many games. So I normally get really involved in the Euros and the World Cup and stuff. But I've not really. I watched the one where Rashford scored 2. Was that against Wales? Yeah. I thought it was a cracking match, but other than that, I've not really. And it just, with it being in winter as well, it's just weird,
the same,
isn't it? It's just
You've not gone to, have you?
Not really. Well, I think I've watched maybe 3 games. 2 of them have been 0-0s.
This is it. I mean, I watched that was the highlight for me, because I do support England, I do want some, but it's different. Like, we was watching the game the other day, John Henderson scores, and we're all like, Rashford scores, and we went berserk.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? It's one of them.
yeah.
You still got that thing of, like, having a United hat on.
You do the happy some days.
Yeah.
What's the thought behind that?
So it was during COVID. A couple of mates of mine set it up. It was a football incentive just to get people who don't really normally play football for whatever reasons. You know, they might be a bit big, or they might just be, you know, just injured from playing football in the past or whatever, just to kind of no kind of stigma football, you know. So getting them out there, and I started playing again. You know, I've always dabbled and played a little bit of football, but it was during COVID. My missus is a nurse, so she was like working right through, and I was mainly at home with my 2 little ones. So it was just like, I just need to get out. I need a group of like lads just to chat with, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I started going because of that aspect of it, really, and loved it. And obviously, I don't get to go as much and stuff now, but you know, it's gone from strength to strength. it's just a brilliant initiative. Do you know what I mean? And it's got a lot of people. I think it started. I think it was like 10 of us turned up to the first sort of thing, and we had a bit of a five-a-side. I think goalies could run out of net and that. And now I think they have like over 60 or something turn up each week and stuff like that, which is really good. Do you know what I mean? Great. It's really good. And my mate Joe, who's kind of the main sort of brains behind it, he does a lot there for him. Like they put on like nights and stuff like that. They done a few friendlies against other teams, like-minded kind of teams and stuff like that. So it's good fun.
I was really intrigued when you mentioned it when we first met, and I've looked online and stuff, because we talk about this quite a lot, about men talking and just like being able to express themselves on a football pitch or communication, how important it is.
Yeah, it is. It's important, isn't it? Like you say, because naturally, I mean, stuff like this, I love doing this, but I'm quite a shy guy naturally in terms of like if I'm out and there's a load of people, I'm quite held back and reserved. So I just wanted to challenge myself on that. I just wanted to, I've got my group of mates, but I want to go meet a group of other lads and try and just chat and be, especially after, through COVID and that, not really doing that. And it did, it opened up and, started chatting to different blokes, and I made a load of mates there now, and it's nice. And I think it's needed. You're exactly right. Yeah, there's blokes bottle stuff up and stuff like that, but like you say, on the pitch, you can let it out, can't you, a little bit?
Yeah, it's a lot easier to slide tackle someone when you're aggressive than when you do it when you're pissed.
Yeah, you get in trouble for it if you do it out in the street. Go wrong, slide tackle strangers in Piccadilly Gardens. Just quick, Andrew, before we wrap up, what's next for you then? I know you're always keeping yourself busy. What's look forward to seeing
so acting wise, a couple of projects that I've taped for. I don't know if I can say much, but I don't know if I've got them, to be fair. But I don't know if I can say much anyway. But I've got a little production company as well, and we're doing. We've got a series that we're hoping to get off the ground, a sketch series as well that we're hoping to kind of pitch, and then hopefully a feature film that we want to try and get off the ground as well next year. So exciting year, kind of the other side of the camera coming up, hopefully.
Yeah.
And then, acting wise, it's a weird one really, because the walk-ins, like last episode aired on like the 31st of October, and everything sort of dips November down because no one's planning anything until post January. So
you got to think though, when's awards season? Because you got to think when that comes around, that's going to be up for stuff, and you feel that would
maybe
don't know when it is. That's how much he's been looking at awards.
Who knows? I mean, I think that's the thing. We've obviously the talent of that is Stephen Graham being in it. Then hopefully it'll go up for stuff. But it's whole new year. Excited now to kind of get up and get on it.
What would you, if you could play any role in the future? Is there any what sort of film would you like to go into? Is there anyone you'd love to work with director wise or?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to work with your Robert Zemeckis, Kevin Smith. My all-time favourite director. Clerks and Dogma and Chasing Amy and all them. He invented the MCU basically before the MCU did it. Do you know what I mean? With Jay and Silent Bob and everything and stuff like that.
I was watching Clerks the other day. It was on like Sky. It was on when I found it on the channel.
Speaking of casts, they all went on to big things as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
And there's low budget and then there's Clerks, which is just
ultra low budget.
It's like now it'd probably be on a phone or something. Solo, but such a talented guy.
I'd literally give me right arm to work with someone like Kevin Smith. But in terms of projects, I went through a stage of doing nothing but comedy, and then I remember sort of sitting with my agent and I was like, I want to do some drama, and I feel like I've not done comedy for ages now, so I'm kind of like, I mean, because like you say, stuff like The Walking was brilliant, but you got 12 weeks of kind of being in a dark headspace.
That's heavy. That must be heavy, and you sort of carrying that around in your.
Yeah, it definitely was. I just tried with that, especially. I just tried to kind of disassociate as much as possible. Do you know what I mean? It was harder in terms of like, for a lot of it, I was kind of in a sort of flat on my own, and there wasn't much sort of so like I'd go and do all this sort of stuff in the day, and then at the night I'd just be literally sat in a flat on my own, like, I'm not going to get to sleep now because I've been really horrible all day. Like, how do you turn off? Do you know what I mean? Bit of Xbox.
On Google, how do racists sleep?
Jesus.
Great. Well, listen, Andrew, I was buzzing when Scotty said you were coming on. It's great chatting to you, and I look forward to, hopefully you come on again and when what's happening in the new year. And like Scotty was saying, I know you're not thinking about it, but when the award season does come about, man, I'm sure you'll
you got to be up there, man.
Honestly,
hopefully, you never know.
Really
I'm quite impressed we didn't get onto Keir Starmer or Labour or any of that sort of thing.
Well, it's all, we didn't want to keep him here all night. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
we'll
lock
be
the doors.
free in the morning. Start sending me down that rabbit hole with Andrew there. Well, that could be another episode. We'll do a 2-hour special. Andrew, thanks again.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you, guys.
Thanks. It's a great chat. If you've not checked out The Walk-In, please go and check it. It's on ITV Hub now, isn't it? Or is it
ITVX?
Sorry,
now.
Big mistake by me.
And ITV's called ITV1 now, apparently. Right. It's all changed.
Thank you.
All changed.
Go and check it out. If you've watched this podcast, you'll see me raving about it for the last few months anyway, or few weeks, sorry. So go and check it out. Make sure as well you're checking out Scotty on his socials, our kid. You know where to find me as well. Don't forget as well to hit like, share, and subscribe. We'll have another video out next week. Go and check out the Patreon as well. There's a link in the description. Big thanks to Andrew. Big thanks to Scotty. Thanks to you guys. Thanks for watching.
Cheers, man.